Hello there, and welcome to Dream Myths. Welcome, and allow yourself to sink into the embrace of Dream Myths. Tonight, our journey takes us to a medieval town where time seems to slow its relentless march, and the air hums with the whispers of ancient practices. Our destination, a venerable apothecary shop where the soft flickering glow of candlelight dances across shelves laden with healing herbs and arcane remedies, each holding the promise of solace and restoration. Before we delve into this narrative, I invite you to find a truly comfortable position. Let your head surrender to the softness of your pillow. As gently as the evening mist descends upon the stoic castle walls, draw a slow, deliberate breath, allowing it to expand within you before releasing it with equal grace, much like the ethereal mists that rise from the ancient cobblestone streets, dissolving into the quiet night. Feel the gentle, undeniable weight of your body as it settles deeper into your bed, growing heavy and secure, like the formidable, aged wooden doors of a fortress finally closing for the night, sealing away the day's demands. Allow your feet to relax, then your legs, letting go of any lingering tension. Feel it release from your hips, your back, and let your shoulders simply drop, surrendering their burdens with the effortless grace of autumn leaves drifting silently to the forest floor. A profound sense of peace will now begin to flow, a gentle current through your neck and head, as smooth and calming as the most exquisitely scented herbal oils, slowly permeating every fiber of your being. With each successive breath, you will find yourself drifting deeper, ever deeper, into an unparalleled state of comfort, as if you are being wrapped in the silken embrace of a merchant's finest, most luxurious velvet. As your physical form grows wonderfully heavy and still, allow your mind to be carried into a tale that unfolds on a stormy night. It is a night when the world outside rages, but within the sanctuary of the apothecary shop, where remedies bubble softly in copper pots and wisdom waits patiently in rows of glass jars, a story begins to stir. The gentle swaying of the hanging lanterns casts intricate, shifting shadows across the sturdy brick walls, an inviting dance that beckons a profound sense of security and hushed serenity. Outside, the rain taps a soft, rhythmic lullaby against the leaded panes of the casement windows, a timeless melody that encourages your thoughts to drift, carried effortlessly on the currents of time itself. The apothecary shop, a haven of healing, was adorned with dried herbs suspended from ancient, weathered ceiling beams, a arranged in meticulous aromatic bundles. Beneath them, a fire danced and crackled merrily, its warmth emanating from beneath bubbling copper pots. These vessels simmered with potent, life-giving brews, their fragrant steam intertwining with the very fabric of the air, creating a rich tapestry of scents that spoke of deep, earthy roots and delicate, ethereal blossoms. In the dim, consistent glow of his working lamp, the apothecary moved with practiced, almost ritualistic precision. His hands, gnarled but agile, meticulously ground leaves to fine powders with his mortar and pestle, each motion a testament to years of dedicated study. His gaze, sharp and observant, darted between the bubbling concoctions and the countless glass vials lining his shelves, each carefully labeled in his distinct, elegant script. These ranged from the commonly sought remedies feverfew for its fever-reducing properties, chamomile, renowned for its calming essence, willow bark, a natural analgesic akin to the modern aspirinto, those far rarer, their contents gleaming with a mysterious, almost mystical luminescence. Polished, gleaming surgical instruments lay in pristine order on a worn wooden table, catching the lamp's golden reflection, ready for an immediate and precise application. Outside, the storm truly raged. Rain, in relentless sheets, lashed against the leaded glass windows, each drop striking with a percussive intensity as evening inexorably drew its cloak over the town. The apothecary paused, his concentration momentarily broken by the sheer force of the drumming tempest, a clamor fierce enough to compel even the most stalwart townspeople to seek refuge indoors. The narrow streets, usually bustling, were now utterly deserted, save for the fleeting glimpse of an occasional vicar hurrying on some urgent, unseen errand. Suddenly, an unexpected gust of frigid wind snaked its way through a barely perceptible gap in the heavy oak door. It swept into the chamber, causing the lamplight to flicker wildly and making the shadows on the walls dance with an eerie, unsettling animation. They shifted and writhed like ancient spirits caught in an eternal whisper of forgotten secrets. The very air itself became a symphony of primal elements. The raw, damp scent of wet earth and the sharp, invigorating tang of ozone from the lightning mingled inextricably with the comforting aroma of dried herbs. It was a unique, olfactive composition, simultaneously familiar and profoundly portentous, hinting at events yet to unfold. The apothecary's gaze, drawn by an instinct honed over decades, drifted towards the rain-streaked window. His eyes lingered for a fractional moment on a particularly dark, narrow alleyway where a fleeting shadow, indistinct and swift, seemed to detach itself from the surrounding gloom. It darted across the periphery of his vision in a mere heartbeat before dissolving back into the swirling curtain of rain and twilight, as if it had never been there at all. An unsettling ripple passed through him, a premonition that the quiet solitude of his sanctuary was about to be irrevocably disturbed. Suddenly, with a jarring abruptness that shattered the shop's quiet sanctity, the stout oak door burst inward. A violent gust of wind, carrying with it a deluge of rain, surged into the room, sending ancient parchments rustling and the flame of the apothecary's lamp dancing wildly. Framed against the tumultuous darkness of the storm-lashed street stood a knight, a formidable silhouette against the chaos. The figure staggered, one armored hand pressed firmly against their side, a silent testament to a grievous wound, whilst the other instinctively reached to steady themselves against the solid oak of the doorframe, a desperate anchor in a moment of profound weakness. Water, cold and relentless, streamed from every rivet and plate of the knight's intricate armor, creating small, rapidly expanding puddles on the flagstone floor. Each solitary drop fell with a distinct, almost rhythmic tic-tac, an uncanny sound that resonated in the sudden hush like the inexorable ticking of a grand clock counting down precious, fleeting moments. A voice, muffled and strained through the metal confines of the helmet, stated simply, "I require treatment." Yet, despite the undeniable tremor in their words and the evident agony radiating from their form, the knight remained remarkably, even unnaturally, upright. There was an unyielding rigidity to their posture, a stubborn refusal to yield to the pain, as if every sinew and bone were a declaration of defiant pride against the encroaching weakness. Each strained breath, each slight sway, spoke not of surrender, but of a profound inner strength, an indomitable will to face their fate on their own terms. The apothecary, a man accustomed to discerning the unseen, felt an immediate, palpable shift in the shop's atmosphere upon the knight's abrupt entrance. It was not merely the chilling draft from the open door, but an almost tangible aura emanating from the wounded figure. He perceived not only the raw, visceral pain of the physical injury, but also a far heavier, more intricate burden, the immense weight of a secret, deep, and meticulously guarded, far more profound and crushing than the very steel of the armor itself. It was the solemn, almost oppressive gravity of an untold narrative, a hidden truth that clung to the night like a second skin, heavier and more dangerous than any blade. With the urgency of a seasoned practitioner, the apothecary moved swiftly, his movements a blur of practiced efficiency. He approached the night, his trained eyes immediately assessing the ghastly wound that marred the steel, a dark stain against the polished surface. His diagnosis was immediate and unequivocal. For proper cleansing and the application of salves, the armor, a constricting cage around the injury, simply had to be removed. However, at the very suggestion, the knight recoiled sharply, a sudden, visceral movement of profound resistance. A low, guttural voice, still muffled by the unyielding helmet, insisted upon immediate binding, asserting with an almost defiant resolve an absolute inability to shed the protective shell. It was an outright refusal, a stark declaration that to remove the armor would be to expose not merely a wound of the flesh, but a far more perilous vulnerability, the very core of a hidden identity, a secret that evidently outweighed the risk of physical demise. The apothecary's brow furrowed, a silent testament to his concern. He offered a grim, professional warning. Without proper access, infection will fester. It will claim you. Yet, the knight remained unyielding, reiterating the demand for immediate binding. "I shall pay handsomely," came the strained declaration, the words imbued with a palpable tension, a desperation that was almost chilling in its intensity. The apothecary's gaze settled momentarily on the glint of the proffered coins, a small, weighty pouch that jingled softly. He did not see mere currency. He perceived a promise, weighty and desperate. It was a silent plea, an exchange not just for treatment, but for his absolute silence, for his complicity in maintaining a dangerous secret. He understood with a profound clarity that the knight's fear was not of the grim reaper's immediate embrace, but of a far more calamitous consequence should their true visage be unveiled. It was a fear of exposure, of repercussions that transcended mere mortal wounds, hinting at a web of intrigue and danger that stretched far beyond the confines of his small candlelit shop. With a reluctant sigh, a subtle acknowledgement of the unspoken pact, he turned to gather the necessary bandages and herbs, his mind already working to formulate a strategy for treating a wound he could barely reach, a medical puzzle complicated by a deeper human enigma. As the apothecary carefully approached the unyielding knight, bandages clutched in his hand, his discerning eyes immediately fell upon the armor. Its quality was undeniable, a magnificent example of fine, meticulously worked steel, clearly indicative of royal craftsmanship. Each intricate curve and polished plate whispered of noble origins, forged in the most esteemed armories, yet conspicuously absent were any identifying marks or heraldrino crest, no lineage, no symbol to betray its wearer's allegiance. This striking anomaly, the pairing of such exquisite artistry with a deliberate anonymity, raised a myriad of questions within the apothecary's astute mind, questions he knew, with a veteran's wisdom, were far better left unasked for now. It was as if a crucial page had been precisely torn from a grand, official chronicle, leaving a tantalizing void. Just as he began his delicate work, a deep, resonant rumble of thunder rolled across the darkened sky, a profound, almost primeval sound that seemed to shake the very foundations of the small shop. Despite the earth-shaking clamor, the night remained utterly silent and unnervingly still, a statue of stoic endurance. It was a silence that spoke volumes, hinting at a formidable discipline, or perhaps a profound internal struggle, as the apothecary began to meticulously clean what little he could access through the gaps in the restrictive armor. His fingers, nimble and experienced, discerned the true nature of the wound. It was deep, certainly, but remarkably clean, indicating it had been inflicted by a sharply honed blade, a weapon of precision, not the blunt, ragged edge of a common brawl. This was no tavern skirmish. This was a calculated strike, designed not necessarily for instant death, but to incapacitate, to cause prolonged agony, suggesting a meticulously calculated plot rather than a spontaneous act of violence. This chilling detail, too, he kept carefully to himself, filing it away for later consideration. The knight's breathing, though measured and controlled, was undeniably strained, a subtle tremor indicating a battle against overwhelming pain and a growing, insidious weakness. In each taut, labored inhalation and exhalation, the apothecary heard an unspoken narrative of profound resilience and an underlying current of fiera, delicate yet taut, string being drawn ever tighter, stretched to its very breaking point. ready to snap under the relentless pressure of their ordeal. He sensed, with every fiber of his being, the encroaching exhaustion, the subtle surrender of the body, a silent countdown within the steel shell. The apothecary knew, with a certainty born of long experience, that further refusal of proper treatment would inevitably worsen the knight's already precarious condition. As he reached for yet more bandages, a blinding flash of lightning rent the heavens, momentarily illuminating the knight's form with an ethereal, almost spectral glow. In that fleeting, intense burst of light, his keen eyes caught the merest glimpse of a subtle, almost imperceptible pattern etched upon the armor's shoulder plate. It was a design he had encountered before, a distinctive mark he associated specifically with the royal court's elite guard. Before his mind could fully process this disquieting detail, a colossal crash of thunder reverberated through the shop, shaking the very floorboards, and the knight, as if struck by an invisible blow, swayed violently. Leaning closer, the apothecary's gaze sharpened, his fingers freezing mid-air as he noticed an ominous, unusual purple tinge blossoming at the edges of the knight's wound. It was a hue he recognized with chilling precision, the unmistakable telltale sign of a nightshade-based poison, a lethal concoction known to be the exclusive tool of royal assassins. There was no room for doubt. The wound was poisoned, and now, irrevocably, the armor must be removed. He articulated this grim reality with quiet authority. The knight, however, stiffened perceptibly within the steel shell. Impossible, came the strained reply, a desperate plea hidden beneath a steely resolve. Just bind it as it is. The apothecary's voice, devoid of any pleasantries, cut through the tension. He'll be dead by dawn. As he began to swiftly gather the necessary counteragents and detoxification herbs, he pointed to the rapidly spreading purple discoloration. His own fingers, despite his composure, betraying a slight tremor, he observed the knight's armored hand, now visibly trembling, a clear indication of the poison's insidious advance. Are you certain? The knight's voice was a mere whisper of its former strength. Absolutely, the apothecary confirmed, his tone leaving no room for argument. Purple-tipped nightshade. It is a royal court poison. I've seen its work before. He commenced grinding the herbs with renewed vigor, the mortar and pestle striking a morbid rhythm, stating unequivocally that without immediate, comprehensive treatment, the poison would undoubtedly reach the heart within a matter of hours. Another deafening peal of thunder crashed overhead, mirroring the internal battle raging within the night. After a profound, strained silence, the figure spoke, weakly, yet with an air of grim instruction. You cannot tell anyone what you see. The apothecary, accustomed to the delicate balance of confidences and exigencies, responded evenly. I take such matters seriously, but we are wasting precious time. With a visible struggle, the knight attempted to manipulate the clasps of the armor, their movements clumsy and uncoordinated. The apothecary, without hesitation, stepped forward to assist, his hands deftly working to carefully remove the chest plate. The sight beneath was far worse than anticipated. Angry purple veins, now resembling dark, malevolent lightning bolts, had begun to spread insidiously across the skin. The apothecary knew he had to act decisively. The helmet must come off, he insisted, his voice firm, as he mixed a powerful herb into a thick paste. The poison will soon affect the mind. I need to check your eyes. The knight swayed again, catching themselves on the sturdy wooden table, causing vials to rattle precariously. No, came the desperate, almost pleading whisper. I cannot. The apothecary's voice, however, remained resolute, firm, and unwavering. You can and you must, with hands that trembled with both weakness and profound reluctance. The knight slowly lifted the heavy helmet. As it came away, a cascade of long, dark hair, previously confined, tumbled free, framing a face that sent a shockwave through the apothecary's very core. It was a countenance he never, in his wildest dreams, expected, or indeed dared, to see again. He recognized the eyes immediately, those unforgettable, soulful pools that had haunted his quiet dreams for years. The princess, for it was undeniably her, met his stunned gaze, her chin lifted in a defiant gesture that belied her encroaching weakness. Hello, Thomas, she murmured softly, her voice barely a breath. He stared, utterly speechless, words failing him entirely. The girl he had secretly loved, his childhood companion and confidante, now stood before him, poisoned and in a desperate, perilous disguise. Your Highness, he finally managed to utter his healer's instincts, warring fiercely with the sheer monumental shock of her revelation. She stumbled then, the poison unmistakably taking its relentless toll, and he instinctively caught her, his arms closing around a form that felt suddenly smaller, more fragile without the imposing steel, so much more like the girl he remembered from their stolen, carefree moments. She attempted a weak, poignant smile, a faint shadow of her former light. "This isn't quite how I imagined seeing you again," she whispered, a touch of dark humor in her voice. The thunder outside raged, but the true storm had just begun within the confines of his quiet shop, a horrifying truth unmasked, reflecting the princess's deepest fears. The cold, precise nature of the poison, a tool of the silent, treacherous royal court, transformed her from a mysterious knight into a tragic victim caught in a ruthless game of power. Each word spoken, from her initial refusal to reveal herself to her weak confession of being wounded, were fragments of a complex tapestry, hinting at an insidious attack far beyond a simple ambush. In that pivotal moment when the helmet was lifted and her face was illuminated by the flickering candlelight, time itself seemed to cease for the apothecary. A forgotten past, filled with tender memories, rushed back, and the forbidden name, Princess, resonated like a silent scream within his mind. This reunion, forged in the crucible of extreme peril and suffering, painted a poignant, almost cruel picture of destiny, where the intertwining threads of love and duty clashed with a devastating, beautiful tragedy. The vile, purple traces of the poison were now spreading with terrifying speed, visibly darkening the skin as insidious veins crept relentlessly up her delicate neck. Her complexion had taken on a ghastly ashen gray pallor, and her breathing grew increasingly labored, each gasp a desperate struggle for air. Thomas, though reeling from the profound shock of her identity, forcibly pushed aside his personal turmoil. His focus, sharp and unyielding, became singularly fixed on the mortal threat before him. "We must act quickly," he declared, his voice a low, urgent command as he gently guided her towards a sturdy wooden chair. "The poison is spreading faster than I had feared." He whirled towards his workbench, his hands moving with a frenetic, almost desperate swiftness, a blur of motion between the countless jars and bottles. His first, crucial need was precise information. Exactly when had she been wounded? 2 hours ago, she managed to whisper, her voice thin. Just outside the city walls, Thomas's mind, a whirlwind of calculations, processed this vital detail. 2 hours. The poison, he knew, would reach her heart by dawn. It was a narrower window than he had desperately hoped for, but if they worked with unwavering speed and precision, it was just enough. There was simply no room to consider any alternative. Not now. Not when he had just found her again after so many lost years. "Stay with me," he urged, his voice laced with an implacable will as his hands instinctively reached for the strongest, most potent antidote herbs in his collection. "We have work to do." At his bench, Thomas worked with a frantic, almost frenzied urgency, his hands moving like a dancer's on the very precipice of life and death, crushing herbs with a force that betrayed his inner turmoil. Princess Elizabeth, her face growing ever paler, watched his every move, her eyes growing increasingly unfocused. "I need to know what truly happened," Thomas pressed, his voice remarkably steady despite the chaos. She managed a weak, ethereal laugh that quickly dissolved into a harsh, rasping cough. "Some things," she whispered, "haven't changed." Thomas, measuring a precise amount of dried foxglove, a powerful, double-edged herb, medicinal in small doses but toxic in excess, emphasized, "Many things have changed, Your Highness." She gripped the chair, her knuckles white. "Don't call me that," she insisted, a flicker of her former spirit. "Not here, not now." He added the foxglove to the mortar, grinding it with a renewed, almost brutal force. "What then shall I call you?" he pressed, his voice revealing a deeper undercurrent of unresolved emotion. "The knight who burst into my shop? The princess who vanished from court without a word? The girl who—" He stopped himself abruptly, the painful words catching in his throat. "The girl who broke your heart?" She finished quietly, her voice imbued with a haunting poignancy. "We need to focus on the poison," he stated firmly, wrenching his thoughts back to the immediate crisis. He observed the telltale signs of nightshade, but something else, something insidious, was accelerating its deadly spread. She nodded with a professional, almost detached air. "Monk's hood, probably. They've been experimenting with combinations." Thomas's voice hardened. "Who exactly is trying to kill you, Elizabeth?" She met his gaze directly, and for a fleeting moment, he saw the spirited girl who had once, so long ago, snuck out to meet him in secret. "Members of my court," she confessed, her voice barely audible. "My own court. I've been investigating corruption, getting far too close to the truth." Thomas turned back to his workbench, his hands, now almost automatically, adding ingredients to a bubbling copper pot. The familiar, rhythmic motions of his craft somehow managed to steady his turbulent emotions. That explains the disguise, then, he mused aloud. I never thought I would see you in armor. You'd be surprised what I've learned to do, she replied, her eyes distant, unfocused. I needed to become more than just a princess in a tower, a gilded cage. And now, he said, stirring the mixture, attempting to lighten the grim mood despite his profound concern, you are a poisoned knight in an apothecary shop. The poison, he noted with a rising sense of dread, was visibly accelerating its dreadful work. At least it brought me back to you, she whispered softly, her words laced with an almost unbearable tenderness. He nearly dropped the spoon, his heart leaping, but before he could even begin to respond, she slumped abruptly forward, collapsing into unconsciousness. Thomas caught her, his heart now a frantic drum against his ribs, racing not only with old familiar feelings, but with a terrifying new fear. The antidote, painstakingly prepared, was not yet ready. Time, that merciless tyrant, was rapidly running out. In that moment, the very air in the room crackled with a desperate urgency. Thomas's hands a blur, dancing between bottles and pestles as if performing a macabre ballet on the very precipice of life and death. Elizabeth's involuntary confessions, amplified by the insidious poison, tore down every emotional barrier between them, forcing Thomas to confront the buried emotions and the agonizing heartbreak of a love long denied. The terrifying moment when the liquid in the copper pot flared a dangerous, blood-red hue was a chilling premonition of imminent failure, and Thomas felt a profound chaos erupt within him, a tormenting conflict between the desperate fear of losing Elizabeth and the haunting resonance of her vulnerable revelations. As she finally crumpled into his arms, a crushing sense of despair settled over the entire room, a haunting, mournful overture to a tragic symphony of shattered love and an uncertain destiny. You need to stay awake, Thomas urged, his voice a low, steady anchor in the swirling chaos as he gently supported Elizabeth, coaxing her back to a fragile consciousness. The antidote requires multiple, precise stages, and for this, I desperately need your help. Her eyelids fluttered, then blinked open, her eyes struggling to pierce the haze of pain and venom. Tell me what to do, she managed, her voice a mere thread of sound, but imbued with a fierce, inherent will. He helped her to the sturdy workbench, his arm circling her waist, bracing her as her body swayed precariously, a willow in the wind. Their immediate task, first, to meticulously counteract the insidious nightshade, and then the equally potent monk's hood. Yet, something profoundly disturbing was at play. These two poisons, usually potent on their own, were interacting with an unusually potent synergy, amplifying each other's deadly effects. As Thomas meticulously combined the ingredients, his hands a blur of purposeful motion, Elizabeth, despite her fading awareness, watched his every gesture. "You were always so good at this, Thomas," she murmured, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. "You knew every plant's purpose, its hidden virtues." Thomas replied quietly, his gaze fixed on his task. "The poison is affecting your mind, Elizabeth. It's making you speak thoughts you'd usually keep carefully hidden." "A truth serum, then," she managed, a weak, almost bitter laugh escaping her lips. "Of course. They are indeed clever." She gripped the rough-hewn bench as a wave of profound dizziness washed over her, though perhaps not as clever as they imagine, Thomas added, carefully crushing belladonna berries, a powerful double-edged component, his focus unwavering. The first crucial stage of the antidote required an exact simmer of precisely 7 minutes. "Count with me," he urged, his voice firm. "It will help keep you alert. Remember how we used to count the stars hidden away in the palace garden? Every single night," she whispered, a wistful memory, "until they called me back inside." His jaw tightened, but he continued to stir the bubbling mixture. "Elizabeth, I kept every single letter you ever sent me," she continued, the truth serum relentlessly loosening her tongue. "Even long after I was forbidden to reply." Her voice cracked with the weight of memory. "Father's orders, of course. A princess simply could not be seen corresponding with a commoner." Thomas's voice, though sharp with an old resurfacing pain, remained steady as he measured the next ingredients. "With anyone who made me happy," he finished, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. She reached for a jar he needed, her hand brushing his. "They were afraid I'd choose differently, that I'd choose you." The mixture in the pot began to bubble more vigorously, emitting a faint, ominous purple steam. Thomas added powdered herbs, counting aloud, his voice now almost a desperate incantation against the ticking clock. "You made your choice clear enough," he said, the old hurt palpable in his tone. "Did I?" Her voice crackled, laced with a raw, undeniable ache. "Or did I simply do what was expected of me? What they relentlessly told me would keep you safe?" He paused, his gaze finally meeting hers, a silent, agonizing question in his eyes. "Keep me safe?" They explicitly threatened to have you permanently removed from the city, Elizabeth. The long suppressed truth spilled out, unbidden, from her lips. I simply couldn't be the reason for your ruin. Thomas's hands stilled entirely, the mortar and pestle momentarily forgotten. So you pushed me away instead? Her bitter smile was a heartbreaking sight. It seemed kinder than having you killed, she whispered, though watching you leave nearly killed me anyway. Suddenly, the mixture in the pot, previously a purplish gray, turned a dangerous, alarming shade of blood red. Thomas reacted instantly, pouring in more herbs, forcing his wavering concentration back to the critical task. The monk's hood, he knew, was now racing towards her heart. They needed to work faster, much faster. She nodded weakly, then stumbled, her body threatening to collapse. He caught her, their proximity electric, the years of enforced separation dissolving in the charged space between them. I never stopped, she whispered, the truth serum drawing the words directly from her very heart. Loving you, I mean. Thomas's hands tightened on her arms, holding her steady. Elizabeth, the poison is making me honest too, he confessed, his voice rough with emotion. Finally, she met his gaze, her eyes surprisingly clear for a moment. Every time I heard news of your success, Thomas, of your healing work, I was so incredibly proud and so profoundly lonely. He gently helped her back into the chair, his professional facade struggling to reassert itself. We need to focus on saving your life. The past is right here, she interrupted, a desperate urgency in her voice. In this shop, with both of us finally speaking the truth, the antidote, still bubbling fiercely, demanded his full attention. Thomas returned to his work, adding the final critical ingredients with hands that trembled not just from haste, but from the immense emotional weight of her words. If you survive this, Elizabeth, what then? He asked, his voice low, burdened with the practicalities of their vastly different lives. You're still a princess, and I'm still the man I should have fought for, the man they deemed unworthy. Her voice, though growing weaker, remained remarkably clear. Perhaps that's precisely why I am here. The poison brought me back to you, but the truth serum that is showing me what I desperately need to do next. At last, with a final, triumphant hiss, the murky mixture in the pot transformed, shifting from its ominous hues to a clear, vibrant, almost luminous blue. Thomas lifted it from the fire, his heart pounding not merely with the urgency of the moment, but with a complex symphony of emotions that defied description. "It's ready," he announced, his voice thick with relief and something more profound. "But Elizabeth," he added, his gaze holding hers, "the things you are saying, they are what I have wanted to say for years." She reached for the vial, her hands trembling with a mixture of weakness and determination. "Now," she challenged, her eyes burning with an incandescent fire. "Are you going to help me live long enough to prove it?" Elizabeth's raw confessions, amplified by the insidious poison, had utterly demolished the carefully constructed barriers between them, forcing Thomas to confront the long-buried emotions and the enduring agony of a love that had been so cruelly denied. The moment Elizabeth, with startling candor, voluntarily unmasked the identities of the treacherous individuals within the royal court, a new, far more dangerous layer of conspiracy was laid bare. This transformed their desperate race against death into a much larger, systemic battle against a corrupt establishment. The miraculous transformation of the antidote, shifting from its toxic, purple-tinged hues to a clear, vibrant, luminous blue, was a powerful moment of profound hope. It signaled not only a crucial change within Elizabeth's physical body, but also foreshadowed a dramatic shift in their shared destiny. "The final stage of the antidote is complicated," Thomas announced, his voice a low, almost reluctant murmur as he held aloft the vial, now glowing with a brilliant, hopeful blue. "It requires blood from both of us, a binding agent." Elizabeth's eyes, still clouded by residual weakness, widened in astonishment. "You mean blood magic?" she whispered, a hint of incredulity in her tone. "I wouldn't have thought you'd delve into such unorthodox practices." "I learned many things after leaving," he replied, his gaze unwavering as he retrieved a small, wickedly sharp surgical knife, its polished surface glinting in the candlelight. "Some, perhaps, less orthodox than others, yet equally potent." The flickering candlelight cast elongated, dancing shadows across the apothecary's face as he made a swift, clean cut across his own palm. Crimson drops, rich and vital, welled forth, falling deliberately into the luminescent blue liquid within the vial. A soft, almost audible hiss emanated from the potion as the blood mingled, and the vibrant blue potion darkened momentarily, as if absorbing the essence before swirling back to its radiant hue, now imbued with a deeper, more profound light. "Your turn," he said softly, offering her the same knife, its hilt cool against her trembling fingers. Their hands brushed, a fleeting contact charged with years of unspoken history and rekindled longing. The truth serum is growing even stronger, she warned, her voice thick with the unfiltered honesty it compelled. Whatever I say next, it will be the unvarnished truth. Then perhaps we should work quickly, Thomas replied, though he made no move to retreat from her proximity, holding her steady as she, with a grimace of pain, made her own small incision. Her blood, too, fell into the potion, intertwining with his. As their life forces mingled, the antidote began to pulse, a rhythmic thrum of light, casting their faces in an ethereal, almost otherworldly glow. There are positions, Elizabeth declared suddenly, the words rushing out in an unstoppable torrent, as if a dam had broken within her. At court, a royal physician is desperately needed, someone utterly trusted, someone who could work closely with the prince and with me. Thomas froze, the implication of her words settling heavily upon him. Elizabeth, I have watched you build this, he said, gesturing with a sweeping hand to encompass his shop, a testament to his quiet independence. Your autonomy, your hard-earned reputation. I know precisely what I'm asking you to give up. His voice grew rough, tinged with the memory of past pain. Do you? The last time I was at court, it was different. I was different. She gripped his arm, her touch firm despite her lingering weakness. I am not that frightened girl anymore, Thomas. I am offering you a choice this time, not taking it away. The antidote, as if responding to the raw honesty, pulsed with even greater intensity, its light growing brighter. And what of your court conspirators? Thomas pressed, ever the pragmatist. They will be dealt with. She swayed slightly, the battle for control over her body still ongoing. But I need someone I can trust implicitly. Someone who knows both the art of healing and the unvarnished truth of the court's treachery. Thomas looked from their mingled blood to the now intensely glowing potion, a profound conflict raging within him. Years of repressed longing warred fiercely with the hard-won wisdom he had cultivated in his solitude. Then help me change it, Elizabeth urged, her eyes blazing with a fierce, almost desperate conviction. Not just as my physician, Thomas, as my partner. The unspoken word hung tantalizingly in the air between them, heavy with promise and the weight of their shared history. Thomas, with a renewed sense of purpose, lifted the vial, Drink first, live, then we shall discuss terms. She took the vial with trembling hands, her gaze locked onto his. I mean every word, Thomas, she vowed, her voice unwavering. Poison or no poison. I know, he said softly, a profound mix of fear and hope in his tone. And that is what terrifies me. As Elizabeth drank, the antidote pulsed even brighter, a miniature sun in her cupped hands. The last faint traces of purple began to recede from her skin, melting away like shadows at dawn, and the effects of the truth serum, rather than diminishing, seemed to intensify. I dream of you, she confessed, the words spilling forth, unbidden and raw. Dreams of what could have been, of what still could be. Thomas turned away, compelled to check her pulse, his professional mask slipping, unable to bear the intensity of her gaze. Elizabeth, please, no, listen, she insisted, catching his hand and holding it firm, her touch surprisingly strong. I am offering you more than just a position at court. I am offering you a way to stay, a way to be near me without suspicion, to help me make real change within that corrupt edifice. Her eyes held his, defiant and resolute. And if I refuse, then I will respect your choice, Thomas. But know this, I am not leaving your life again. Position or no position, I will find ways to see you, to work with you, to be with you. He gently pressed a finger to her lips. The antidote needs time to work, Elizabeth. Rest. But she held his hand tighter, unwilling to yield. No more waiting, no more silence. The poison brought me here, yes, but this truth serum, this is making me brave. I love you, Thomas, still, always. And I am tired of pretending that duty means denying my heart. Outside, another clap of thunder ripped through the night sky, a fitting backdrop to Thomas's internal struggle as he wrestled with her profound words and the startling reality they represented. Your life at the court, he began carefully, choosing his words with immense gravity. Your responsibilities. They will indeed be easier with someone I trust implicitly at my side. She reached out, her hand, still bearing the faint, lingering traces of their mingled blood, gently touching his face. Someone who knows both healing and truth, she affirmed, her eyes shining with fierce conviction. Someone who can help me transform the court instead of being transformed by its darkness. As the antidote's powerful glow began to subtly fade, something else grew undeniably stronger between Thema, renewed connection, a shared purpose forged in the crucible of crisis. Dawn comes soon, he said, his voice soft, acknowledging the relentless march of time. The antidote will need watching throughout the night. Elizabeth offered him a radiant smile, the first true, unburdened smile he had seen on her face in years. "Then we have hours yet," she murmured, her voice filled with a newfound hope, "to plan our future." The storm continued to rage outside the apothecary's humble shop, a symphony of untamed elements. But within, truth and healing had worked their profound magic, as two hearts, long torn apart by duty and circumstance, had finally, undeniably, found their way back to each other, their destinies now intertwined. Elizabeth's bold proposition of blood magic as the antidote's final binding element was a profoundly dramatic pivot, plunging the narrative into a realm of the esoteric and supernatural. Here, destiny was not merely spoken but sealed by the very essence of life itself, their mingled blood serving as an irrefutable testament to their unbreakable bond. Elizabeth's raw, unfiltered confession, compelled by the intoxicating truth serum, created a potent truth or dare moment, releasing long suppressed words and compelling Thomas to confront the profound emotions and life-altering choices he had so assiduously avoided for years. Her audacious offer of a position at court, not merely as a physician but as her partner, marked the zenith of the narrative's climax. Here, love and duty converged in a powerful, undeniable fusion, opening a new chapter fraught with both immense promise and inherent peril. As Elizabeth consumed the antidote, its vibrant glow radiated outward like a destined fireworks display, illuminating the contours of their future. The miraculous disappearance of the purple traces of poison from her skin served as a potent, visible symbol of this radical new beginning, a visceral manifestation of their intertwined fates. Thomas hovered near her, a silent sentinel, his gaze intently fixed on Elizabeth as the color slowly, miraculously returned to her pallid cheeks. The potent antidote had purged the insidious poison from her system. Her breathing, though still shallow, grew visibly easier, yet an exhausted tremor subtly ran through her limbs, a testament to the ordeal she had endured. "That was incredibly close," he murmured, his voice laced with a profound relief as he gently pressed a hand to her forehead, feeling the lingering, feverish heat recede. "Another hour," perhaps less, and I might have been too late to wrest you from its grasp. Elizabeth managed a small, fragile smile, a mere ghost of her usual vibrant expression. "Then it seems," she whispered, her voice still weak but imbued with a nascent strength, "I owe you my life once more." Thomas gently shook his head. "You should rest, Your Highness. Profound rest is crucial for your recovery." She attempted to lean back, but her eyes, restless and determined, immediately darted towards the discarded, heavy armor lying in a heap on the floor. "I cannot remain here," she stated, her voice gaining a surprising firmness. "My enemies will undoubtedly perceive this absence as weakness, a victory in their insidious schemes if I do not return to court immediately." Thomas exhaled slowly, a heavy sigh that carried the weight of his apprehension. "You nearly died tonight, Elizabeth. Grant yourself the gift of time for healing." She pushed herself upright in the chair, a surge of adrenaline momentarily overriding her exhaustion. "Time," she countered, her gaze unwavering, "is precisely what I do not possess. There is a deep, festering corruption within the very heart of the palace, a cabal of individuals who would stop at nothing to eliminate me from the political chessboard for good. If I am gone for too long, they will move unopposed, solidifying their power." Her gaze, sharp and resolute, flicked to him. "That," she concluded, her voice low and earnest, "is precisely why I need you." He averted his eyes momentarily, a flicker of old memories passing through them. "I deliberately left the court, Elizabeth, to avoid these very intrigues. You, more than anyone, are acutely aware of that." "I am," she conceded softly, her voice understanding yet firm. Thomas reached for her hand, his fingers enclosing hers, a familiar warmth rekindling between them. "If you return to court now, you will be in mortal danger every single moment." "I am in danger wherever I go, Thomas," she countered, meeting his gaze with unshakable resolve. "All I can do is confront it head on, but I must do so with the unwavering help of someone I can absolutely trust." Her words, delivered with such conviction, caused his heart to pound with a renewed, almost forgotten rhythm. "What precisely do you wish me to do?" he asked, his voice betraying the depth of his deliberation. "I am offering you the esteemed position of royal physician," she stated, her voice clear and authoritative despite her recent ordeal. "I trust no one else with my own health, nor, more importantly, with the very well-being of the kingdom's future. Thomas let out a long, measured breath, the lingering memory of cold, echoing marble halls and hushed whispers from his past filling his mind. That is a monumental step, Elizabeth, he cautioned, the implications vast. You know the whispers, the incessant gossip that will inevitably erupt should you bring me back to court after all these years. Then let them talk, she declared, dismissing the concern with a regal wave of her hand. The only thing I truly care about, Thomas, is whether you will accept this position. His mind drifted back to their early years, their carefree days as children, playing amongst the manicured rose gardens of the palace, blissfully unaware of the cruel machinations of the world. He couldn't lose her again. The thought solidified his resolve. I'll do it, he stated, his voice firm, leaving no room for doubt. If it means I can keep you alive and perhaps even root out the source of these insidious attacks, then I will return to court. She squeezed his hand, the familiar warmth flaring powerfully between them, a silent promise. Thank you, Thomas, she whispered, her eyes shining with relief and hope. I promise you, this time, it will be different. Our approach will be different. The moment Elizabeth regained full consciousness, her iron will to return to the heart of the royal court solidified her ultimate objective. Her recovery transcended a mere personal triumph. It marked the potent inception of a far grander, more perilous struggle. Thomas's profound hesitation, confronting the daunting prospect of returning to the court, created a poignant emotional interlude. During this quiet pause, he wrestled with the lingering anxieties of his past versus the compelling promise of a future forged alongside Elizabeth. His eventual, profound acceptance, subtly underscored by Elizabeth's firm clasp of his hand, brought with it a profound sense of relief and a burgeoning hope. It was akin to a magnificent symphony concluding on a beautiful, soaring, high note, yet one that still resonated with the deep, echoing undertones of the formidable challenges that undeniably lay ahead. Thomas moved swiftly to help her to her feet, his hand a steadying presence. Elizabeth, still somewhat unsteady, cautiously tested her balance, a testament to her inherent resilience. The deep gash in her side still sent a twinge of pain through her, a stark reminder of her near-fatal ordeal. Yet with each measured breath, she stood a fraction taller, pressing a hand instinctively against the freshly applied bandages. We need a meticulous plan, she declared, her voice still a little hoarse, but gaining strength with every word. My father will undoubtedly demand rigorous answers about this wound and about my inexplicable absence. Thomas, ever the pragmatist, retrieved her discarded breastplate, its heavy steel cool beneath his touch, and set it carefully upon a nearby table. We shall state that you were ambushed just outside the city walls, he proposed, his mind already weaving a plausible narrative. That, Your Highness, is not far removed from the truth. He paused, his gaze meeting hers, a silent understanding passing between them. As for the deeper truths, our recent findings about the poison and its orchestrators, those we shall keep entirely to ourselves until such time as we know precisely who is truly behind this insidious attempt on your life. Elizabeth nodded slowly, a firm resolution settling over her features. Yes, she affirmed, her voice a low, strategic whisper. I shall move quietly, like a shadow in the halls, observing, waiting. Outside the leaded glass windows, the first faint, ethereal pink light of the rising sun began to creep in, gently illuminating the worn stone floor. The tempest that had raged through the night had finally blown over, leaving behind it a profound, hushed calm, a quietude that felt both fragile and deeply reassuring. Beyond the confines of the apothecary's shop, a new day, fresh and unblemished, beckoned with its myriad possibilities. Elizabeth's gaze, clear and determined, met Thomas's across the dim, awakening room. For a profound, suspended moment, they stood not as princess and apothecary, their societal roles momentarily forgotten, but as two souls who had been irrevocably drifted apart by circumstance, now poised on the very brink of something entirely new, something profound and as yet undefined. She lifted her chin, a subtle gesture of courage and invitation.
Shall we?
She murmured, her voice a soft command, laden with unspoken challenge and promise. Thomas paused, allowing the ghosts of old fears to settle, to recede into the shadows, making room for the burgeoning tendrils of new, audacious hopes. A soft, resolute smile touched his lips, a genuine expression he had once given her as a boy in their secret garden, long before the burdens of the world had irrevocably reshaped their lives. Lead the way, Your Highness, he replied, his voice gentle yet firm, a silent vow. Side by side, They stepped out of the sheltering confines of the apothecary's shop, emerging into the crisp, clean air of the dawn. The world outside, bathed in the nascent light, felt renewed, brimming with a quiet anticipation. Yet, they knew with a chilling certainty that formidable challenges awaited them within the palace walls. Intricate court conspiracies, the wary, suspicious gazes of courtiers, and the enduring burden of old wounds, both physical and emotional. But they carried with them a newfound shared resolve, an unbreakable commitment to face it all together no matter the cost. For the very first time in what felt like an eternity, Thomas felt the undeniable pull of duty, calling him back to a world he had long forsaken, entwined with the intoxicating promise of what might yet be, if only they dared to reach out and claim it together. The profound synchronicity in their gazes as Thomas and Elizabeth looked towards the nascent dawn was a silent, powerful promise of a shared future. This was not merely the blossoming of individual love, but the forging of a profound, common mission to fundamentally transform their kingdom. The evocative scene of their departure from the shop, stepping into the pure light of the new day and leaving behind the tumultuous darkness of the storm-ridden night and the secrets finally revealed, created a conclusion brimming with both potent hope and lingering, haunting possibility. It was an ending that felt less like a finality and more like a pivotal beginning, hinting at the grand adventures and formidable trials that still lay ahead. The final lingering note, like a distant echo in a grand composition, resonated not as a definitive close, but as a poignant reminder that their story had only just commenced, and that the trials awaiting them would only serve to strengthen the bonds of their love and the unwavering steel of their shared determination